look, as you know, tactics are not my bag. But there is one man whose bag tactics are. There's one man whose tactics are. The guy who does not. I am chatting to my good friend Sai, the Miyazaki man himself, Liverpool fan in Japan. Really, really good channel. I would highly recommend you check it out. But he really has a way of explaining things, tactics, positions, formations, things like that. I always love to pick his brain on things. Really worth following. And I think a lot of people who watch my channel also watch his channel as well, because it's a breath of fresh air. All right. It's not the sensationalist, clickbaity sort of stuff. It's just lads chatting. But yeah, we had a great chat, so here it is. Would love to get your feedback on it. If you'd like us to collab a bit more, please let me know, and enjoy the chat. Sai, how are you?
I'm very good, Andy. How are you doing, my man?
Very, very good. Thank you for joining us today, and for helping us out, because the channel is very much a vibes channel, and sometimes the tactics side can be lacking. So that's why I've enlisted the trust of your good self to actually fill us in on what some things might mean tactically, or just get your thoughts on, you know, how the season might shape up and things like that. So very much appreciate that you're coming on with us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Well, look, I think the best thing to do is to start off with what's hot at the minute, and it's all about transfers and things like that. So there's a lot of things going around with Leny Yoro signed for United, and a lot of Liverpool fans are not too pleased at the fact that we've been pipped for someone by United, even though we technically didn't actually make a bid. But he's gone to United. I think a lot of Liverpool fans thought, okay, well, if he doesn't go to Real Madrid, then he'll come to Liverpool. But United seem to have a bit of a better structure about them this year. What's your thoughts on things like that when we miss out on a target like that? Like, do you hold a lot of stock in transfers? Would you get as animated as a lot of people, or are you a bit more chilled about the whole thing?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think transfers are the most exciting part of the transfer window, and especially to your club, Liverpool, right? You want to sign all the wonder kids, all the best players. Anytime anyone is linked in the media, you know, there's a lot of excitement generated, especially on social media. But the kind of way I look at it, first and foremost, it's a little bit cliche, but you've got to understand what Arne Slot wants. He's the manager. He's going to be shaping his team, right, in the systems. And at the end of the day, how do you know that he's prioritized Leny Yoro as a signing, not just that, a centre-back as a signing? Because you look at Man United's squad, they really do need a centre-back. And then you look at Liverpool's squad, it'd be nice to have one, but we still got the core, right? The core premium centre-backs at our disposal. A lot of clubs would want our centre-backs. And then if that's true, then perhaps Arne Slot is targeting other areas, maybe a replacement for Mo Salah, maybe a number 10, a playmaker, a more reliable striker than Darwin Núñez, a number 6, for example. So we don't actually know where he wants to put majority of his transfer budget towards. So to kind of say we missed out on him, maybe we were interested in him, but not at 52 million and at that wage bracket. So in my mind, I trust them.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it's kind of been okay, United really need him more than we do. I would take any of our centre-backs over him at the minute. But it's like, also I feel like Man United are going to ask a lot of this kid. You know, it's like, please fix our defence. So yeah, like, it was one of those, like, I didn't get as annoyed as maybe a lot of other people would. But like, I agree. Like, Slot is kind of, he's just been given this new set of toys to play with. He doesn't need any extra toys coming in right now. I mean, look, he will take them, but I think the whole thing, and you know, the way it is now online, where you have, like, Richard Hughes was saying about, he just used the word at Slot's press conference, opportunistic, and I think a lot of people took issue with that. You know what I mean? Now, like, you know, like, if you're speaking live at something, like, you're not going to carefully think about, okay, what word am I going to use for this? But I think everyone's just jumping on that word opportunistic. It's like, we're not opportunistic. We're the ones who should be, and all this sort of stuff. So I kind of think that's going to be used against them anytime we miss out on a signing,
It's true. It's kind of like the perspective, right? So imagine that Liverpool had already signed someone that could play in the first team, whether it is, established first team starter or rotational player, and then the news wouldn't have hit so hard. But the fact that we haven't signed anyone yet, I think people are riled up a little bit. They're waiting for that first transfer. Come on, Liverpool, get a move on. Pre-season's already started. It's the fact that we haven't signed anyone that I think has really got on people's, nerves at the moment.
And I think it doesn't help with the fact that things are so, like they're not unsettled, but they're not settled. You've got a new manager, half the squad are in and they've met him. The other half haven't even really met him yet, and it's a bit of a messy pre-season. It's kind of starting next week, and a lot of players won't be back for a couple of weeks anyway. And then it's like a game every 3 days. So I think if it was if Klopp was still here, if everything was a bit more like, okay, everyone knows the way it's going to work, then people wouldn't kind of freak out as much. Do you know what I mean?
Have more confidence in it, and the Klopp would get the backing that he'd ask for as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the only thing that I've seen this week that's actually kind of worried me is I see more increasing links of Trent to Real Madrid. Because obviously he's best mates with Jude Bellingham, who snubbed us for Real Madrid. But how much do you think there's something in that, or what way do you think that might go?
Yeah. So ultimately, it kind of depends on Trent's stance and Arne Slot's stance and what they want in their respective career and team. So, for example, if Trent is adamant that he wants to play centre midfield, he's not going to get that at Real Madrid, but there's an opportunity for him to transition into there from right back at Liverpool, or even, on occasions play there. But I don't think Arne Slot will risk his reputation, building that established team, this first real, team of the Arne Slot era, by risking experimenting with Trent in midfield, because Klopp had a long reign with Trent in the team, and he was never tempted to do it, despite potential options to do it, right? Because we did have options at right back with Joe Gomez at the time as well, even players like Milner or Henderson who could have covered there for Trent roaming forward. So I kind of think if Trent wants that global brand recognition, then it has to be Real Madrid. There's no other team he would go to. Jude Bellingham, Trent, last year of contract, we got to get at least a decent sum for him, because players nowadays still go for big transfer fee. If he wants to be Liverpool captain, if that's what's meaningful to him, then obviously he will stay. And if Arne Slot can convince him he'll be a key player as well, then he'll probably, really look towards that responsibility when Van Dijk leaves or relinquishes captaincy. He'll get that. But we still have right backs in backup. Connor Bradley, absolutely immense. Gomez can do a job there. Calvin Ramsey out on loan. Even other players can fulfill that role and cover in the wide channel as well. So whether he moves or not, still up in the air. But he is a scouser at heart. He'd give us at least one more year. The worst situation, I think, is losing him on a free, though. That would be the worst situation.
Yeah. So it would work out if he left next year, he would go on a free, would he?
Yes, last year of the contract.
Like that's the thing, because I could see a world where he is getting the lay of the land. Like, if I'm thinking worst case scenario, okay, like worst case scenario, he leaves tomorrow. But second worst case scenario is he leaves at the end of the year, so that people have a year to digest the fact that maybe he'll be moving on, and just to mentally sort of accept it. Yeah. But like I can definitely see that he's matured a lot since he's been given the vice captaincy, and I think like Van Dijk's probably I don't even like to think about it, but 2 years, 3 years maybe of being captain before maybe it's switched to Trent. So I kind of think Trent's kind of getting to the stage where he's thinking, okay, am I going to be a one club player, or am I going to go and sow my oats across the way? So like that one really, like it just doesn't feel right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like just talks of Trent. It's like Liverpool are moving to Real Madrid. It's like it just doesn't, like. But he's a Scouser, and he's our Scouser. Yeah, it doesn't. That's the one where I'm like, don't like that. Where there's
it does strike a kind of nerve, and I feel as though, right. So You're completely right. Trent's contract situation now is basically at a knife edge situation. If he signs, he's going to sign probably his career at Liverpool. Going to be 5, 6, 7 year contract. Liverpool captain in the making, key player established. And if Arne Slot accepts that and sells that vision to him, then great as well. But if he moves on, right? If he moves on, then he's probably going to, make his bed in Real Madrid, whether successful or not successful. And then you go back to Leny Yoro as well, right? They're giving an 18-year-old a 5-year contract at a premium wage. He still wants to go to Real Madrid. How do you know he's not going to kick up a fuss? If he's any good, he might kick up a fuss and try to move there. If he's not good, they'll be stuck with him for that period of time. He's not reached his prime yet. And that contract renewal time, how expensive will that be? If they want to keep him at Man United and he's got his heart set on Real Madrid and he's actually pretty good, that will cost a fortune to keep him there.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And also Liverpool, on the Liverpool side of things, they don't like to break their wage structure for, unless it's like, a Van Dijk or a Salah or something like that. And is there anyone else that you see Liverpool being linked with that you think, oh, he'd actually be a great fit? Or is there anyone that you'd think, he would fit in great into Slot's system or anything like that? Would you have anything like that?
Yeah. So when Klopp took over from Liverpool, right, he needed a marquee signing who could make an instant impact and get the crowd behind him, get him on the feet. It's not like Brendan Rodgers with Fabio Borini, right, with a knife in between the mouth. None of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We never saw that. He never scored.
No, he never scored.
Yeah. It's more like a Sadio Mane, right, from Southampton.
Yeah.
Now, there's two players in the Premier League that I think could light it up from day one because they've got the raw attributes and the desire to go straight for goal. So Brian Mbeumo, right? Brian Mbeumo has the raw attributes like a Sadio Mane, can go both ways. He's actually well versed going outside, inside, and took over from Ivan Toney in Ivan Toney's ban and as the main man of that team as well. And then the other one is Mohamed Kudus, right, at West Ham as well. So he dribbling statistics off the charts. He's a live wire, lots and lots of flair. They'd both be expensive, but they're both the type of signing that I think Arne Slot would really like because not only are they Prem proven, but he likes mixing up his wingers. If the wing system isn't working, he might chuck someone else on and say, okay, you give that function a go. You give the tactics I set out a go and see if you can implement it better. He really likes rotating and working with the wingers. So I see him going for a winger, probably a right-sided winger.
God, I would love either of those, to be honest. It's kind of, and I like the fact that, or I would like the fact that he'd be signing someone from the Premier League, because I always find when Liverpool do that, they normally get it right. When they sign someone who's proven in the Premier League, that because that's the gamble when you're getting someone from a different league. It's like, okay, how are they going to integrate with our league? Sometimes it takes players a long time to get up to speed with the pace of the Premier League or the physicality of the Premier League, whereas you're kind of that's not even an issue with these sort of signings. So I would love either one of those, to be honest. I'd be very happy with them, particularly in Brian Mbeumo, because it's kind of I think it's specifically because he got me so many points in my fantasy football last year I'm thinking definitely get him playing for us. But then, so with the players that we currently have, right, I wanted to get your thoughts on this as well. So the front three maybe we'll start at, right? So
sure.
What for me, I would have Gakpo on the left, Salah on the right, and I would probably have Núñez in the middle. And it's very divisive when you say that, because there's a lot of people who rightly are just been like, look at the return here, Jota, if the only thing I would worry with Jota is consistency. He just have a good run in the team. Jota is obviously one of the best finishers in the team, but that's who I would have. I'd have Gakpo, Núñez, Salah. What way would you have the front three, or what do you think he'll do as well?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a geeky answer here, but I think it's going to be very, very dependent on the opposition and what you're trying to target. So my imagination of Slot is different than my imagination of Jurgen Klopp. I think Slot is very technical and very precise on what he's trying to achieve. A little bit more like Guardiola. So if he says, for example, their right back is very susceptible to being taken on one-on-one, he hasn't got the balance or the attributes to defend a Luis Diaz, for example, then your whole strategy is designed around getting Luis Diaz one-on-one against a defender to make something happen. If he thinks we're gonna go with delivery into the box, a reliable long shot, and someone with physicality and power to make things happen on the inside kind of channel, then Cody Gakpo has proven in the Euros he's an effective finisher. He'll get in those scoring positions, and more often than Lucho, most likely, he'll finish them off. Salah's role will be very, very interesting in the coming season, because I really think as though he's going to play as a more of a wide playmaker as opposed to the traditional winger Egyptian, running down the wing, because he doesn't really run at players so much anymore. He's just lost that little bit of acceleration, but his playmaking, his through balls, magic from last season, especially.
But that's the thing. Like that's the thing. Sorry, but like his assist, like that final ball, I want him to be playing that ball nearly every time, because he nearly always gets it spot on, gets the weight of the pass perfect, gets the trajectory right. What I never want to see again is Salah dribbling at players, and I hate that I'm saying that, but I feel like literally 0 out of 100 times last year when he's tried to kind of go at a player, it never works anymore. And like he's still got a speed. If he has an open pitch in front of him, he will beat you and he will get there. But actually saying that, I do remember there was a time last year. Do you remember towards the end of the year? I can't remember what game it was, where there was a definitive, like, if he busted a gut, he would have gotten to that ball and it would have been a 1-on-1, and he kind of dialed back or didn't back himself to get it. And I remember thinking, like, no.
That's not the right mentality.
Yeah, but yeah, like, I'm very interested to see what Salah's role will be like. He seems as hungry as ever. He looks fantastic. Not that matters, but he looks fantastic with this new hair. And like, he's ready. And then so in terms of the midfield, how much do you see Endo being a starter this year, or do you think he'll be kind of rotated in a bit more?
It's an interesting conundrum. So ultimately, it depends if we sign an additional number 6, right? So let's take the situation where we don't sign an additional number 6. He is the predominant number 6 in the team, the destroyer, the anchor man. He's also got a useful through ball through into the Szoboszlai or someone in the wide channels as well. He's deceptively good on transition, on getting the ball forward, and he can move forward. But the issue with Endo is he's not the most pacey. And at times, right, it looks as though his instructions was to keep the ball simple. He doesn't pass the ball at pace a lot of times when keeping it simple. It's a nice, comfortable, easy ball. But there's games, for example, against Manchester City, against Arsenal, when you're under the cosh, you might be needing to win that midfield battle. You need a bit of bite. You need the fans on your side, jing them up. Him with a gum shield, crunching someone. That's what you need in that type of game to get you the ball and to get you on the front foot again. I feel as though in Arne Slot's system, where he does sometimes put 2 players deep, but one will push forward, or one will fill the gap, or one will even drop in the centre-back channels to allow a centre-back to push on forwards. Endo's quite experienced in manoeuvring to the right place to cover those gaps, so he definitely has a role. But I think if we don't sign another number 6, his role would be shared with Stefan Bajcetic, because Stefan Bajcetic can do a lot of the similar things as well. Probably better at getting the ball under pressure on the turn and weaving his way through as well. He's got technical, he's silky, he's Spanish. But as well as that, it'll be interesting to see if Tyler Morton has a role to do a similar thing as well. But I think Tyler Morton's a little bit more effective pushing up into the higher spaces, a little bit like Thiago in between the lines as well. But if we do sign an athletic number 6 who can cover, I think the minutes will be shared between him and Endo, depending on how they settle, how quick they get up to speed, how effective they are. You're thinking an Edison from Atalanta, what Romeo Lavia was before he signed for Chelsea and became an injury note. It'll be very interesting. But Endo will definitely get the minutes, but he won't be a guaranteed starter. He'll be a starter for the games where we need to win the midfield battle, I'd say.
It's one of those, isn't it, where it's like, if you could give me start of last season Szoboszlai for the whole of this season, and middle of last season Endo for the whole of last season, and just McAllister being amazing, like they kind of went through phases. Like Szoboszlai, remember when he first like the first maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 games, and you're just like, oh my god, this guy, like, he's incredible. And like, he's still been good, but I think just because we saw, like, oh, he's the greatest player of all time at the start of last season, and then it's like, great, and then he kind of dipped off, and then Endo like took a while to kind of get going, and then he's like, oh, he's the best midfielder ever. And then McAllister just, McAllister I found was a bit of a slow burn at the start as well, and then just he's arguably our best player now. But I keep forgetting about Bajcetic, to be honest, and it's like, how much would he be worth? You know, in like, I hate like. I do hate when people use the term like he's like a new signing, but he's like a new signing. It's you know, we didn't really see him at all last year, and we were so impressed by what we saw of him when he was playing, and hopefully now he'll get a good run. And he like I just hope he doesn't have one of those sort of stop start kind of stuttery seasons again, because he's so good, and he is, like you said, he's great at kind of weaving in. He's actually, you know, one who's really good at dribbling, getting around players, like I said, kind of in that, like if he's surrounded by a few players, I'd be fairly confident that he'd be able to get out of it. But like, how much do you think, like how much, if we sign nobody this year, how, like, I actually think that we have pretty good depth, not great, but pretty good depth to the squad in terms of the talent at our disposal. What do you think about it? Like, if we had no new signings this year, where would you think we would end up? Well, that's a very it's a very loaded question. But if we got no signings, like, how do you think we would do if this was our lot?
Sure. So if this was a lot, and I'm gonna take some assumptions here, I'm gonna say that Kelleher stays there for. Bajcetic is fit. Tyler Morton comes in as well. Fabio Carvalho comes in as well, so we have some options there. I would think Arne Slot has a really, really good system, because tactically Arne Slot looked on point. He's already won things. He's won more things than Mikel Arteta. He seems like the type that knows exactly what he wants, and he is going to explain to the press and explain to his players on a good performance or a bad performance what they did right technically, explain how to improve it, and he'll be straight up as well. I don't think he'll take any prisoners. I think he's a lot more straightforward than you'd expect. So with that player rotation, the only places we're slightly lacking, I would say, is a backup for right wing, because Harvey Elliott, one of the best wonder kids in world football, can do the job on the right. And then you've got other players who can do a job on the right, but it's not predominantly their strong position. Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota offer different things on the right. You've got Darwin Núñez, more like a Djibril Cissé, running in straight lines at pace, belting it across, right? Diogo Jota will try to work his way, but actually he's more effective probably coming in from the left-hand side. So the right wing is a little bit better, but Salah never gets injured anyway. Up front, you're going to bank on the consistency of a Jota and a Núñez and a Gakpo. But the thing is, Gakpo's probably going to be fighting with Luis Diaz on the left. Darwin Núñez needs to hit his goal-scoring run. But what I have confidence of with Darwin Núñez is Arne Slot is really, really good at getting the best out of a striker's attributes. Santiago Jimenez at Feyenoord wasn't the most effective before Slot, but Slot found a way to give him the type of passes where he just could not really miss, train that same run and same shot again and again. In the midfield, I think what will really, really be good for Arne Slot with this Liverpool midfield is there's a lot of technicians in this midfield, right? Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, Stefan Bajcetic, Alexis McAllister, Tyler Morton. I class Szoboszlai as more of an athletic powerhouse than a technical kind of marvel. What we have is people who are comfortable on the ball. Ryan Gravenberch, they love the ball at their feet. And when that's the situation, you're really going to get a lot of joy out of the midfield battles in that situation. We look at centre-backs and we look at the full-backs. I think we're pretty well loaded, to be honest, especially if, for example, Sepp Vandenberg doesn't go, because he'll be fourth or fifth choice in the absence of John Matip. Alisson and Kelleher. Left-back, Robertson and Tsimikas and Gomez. Right-back, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Conor Bradley, Joe Gomez. Centre-back, Virgil van Dijk, Ibu Konate, Jarrell Quansah and Sepp Vandenberg. It's not a bad selection at all. Defensive midfielder, even though people hate to say this, Alexis McAllister in the sixth position for me still has a place in certain games. So if you want to bypass the midfield and you want to play your front 4 or 5 and 4 or 5 and work the ball between the lines, having Endo and McAllister at the base wins you the ball because they're rugged and aggressive, and will get the ball to the front 4 and to say, you 4 go and play and attack the opposition. I'd prefer McAllister there than someone else to get that ball forward to Salah, Núñez, Lucho Diaz and Szoboszlai behind them for anything that drops. So I think the squad is pretty well suited. And as for your question where we finish, I really think we'll finish second, only because Pep Guardiola's team know inside out, muscle memory, exactly what they're doing. They've been settled for so long. They just need icing on the cake, and then off they go again. So second,
it's true, isn't it? Yeah, it's one of those that it's like it's so up in the air, but I kind of like I do remember, like, I think you're right on, it's like with Alexis McAllister in that sort of more holding role. It's one of those where it's like, I really want to unlock him here, but he does this job better than a lot of people. Because I remember at the time it was, when he first played last season, and his role was kind of a bit more like that. He wasn't that too far up the pitch, and then you see him play for Argentina. And be like, oh, why isn't he doing this for us? And it's like, well, he's playing in a totally different position there. But like, he did such a great job at the start of last season, in that role. It's only the fact that the second half of the season he was so spectacular, and was a bit more further up. Like, does Slot play more of a number 10 than Klopp did, or is it kind of largely similar to what Klopp did formation wise?
I think it's a good point. So with Jurgen Klopp's system, he goes with two number 8s, right? Two number 8s, and what he tries to do is transition the inside forwards in. So Lucho Diaz comes in, Mo Salah comes in, so they're kind of wide 10s. There's not a central 10 who starts in the center looking for space either side. It's the reverse. You're going from out wide into those central kind of Mazzala positions to look for the opportunity. With Arne Slot, he likes to get a midfielder, a number 8 or winger, behind the main striker, kind of like a support striker, right? So into a kind of Dennis Bergkamp, Berbatov, someone just behind the front striker, working together and sliding them through. And in that regard, that's what I kind of see Salah's role. So Salah getting in behind a Jota or in behind a Nunes to slide them through, which means then who's keeping the whip? It's got to be your Conor Bradley or your right-sided 8. Now, Szoboszlai, Conor Bradley, or even Trent Alexander-Arnold, for me, on the right channel, still look deadly, look effective. They've got a whipped in the ball, they can run with the ball, they've got options there. So I think Slot plays with more of a number 10 than Jurgen Klopp, but I don't think they start a player there, if that makes sense. It's not like a 4-4-1-1 with a number 10. They get I would love. Position.
I was going to say I would love to see Salah come in a bit more central, this year. Just drift in that way, like because like you said, like that. It's like that. I feel like last season Salah was like, he's got all these attributes and all these traits and all these skills, but I felt like his position didn't unlock his best, his game-changing sort of abilities. You know what I mean? It was kind of like personally, I mean, I don't know, again, like I'm not as tactically astute, but it was kind of just like, he'd be like, it's like he has to get through all this other shit to actually get to where he can make the difference. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I think he'd be so far, like, hugging the touchline, and it's like grand. I mean, he might be dependent on a bit of a 1-2, and he'd get in like around the back. But I just felt like, if he just plonked him here, look, I know it's not as simple as that, but just if he just moved him a bit more starting position, a bit closer to the goal, that just that final pass or the shot that he has, or just
better position,
if there's a bit of space in front of him, it's like, okay, it's me and the goal here. It's not me, like, having to try and cut in and all this sort of stuff.
Doing too much.
No, it's Salah, like, he can do it, and if he's there all this season, I'm sure he'd be great. But I just think there's certain, I don't know if this is blasphemous now, but there's certain things, like, when he joined in 2017, it was like all of his stats were like up here, 99, everything, metric, if you're playing him on FIFA. And now I think, like, okay, dribbling is maybe a bit lower, but like the other, like, shot accuracy and passing and just stamina, speed, all that's still all pretty much up there. And I just think the system that he was in with when he was really, really thriving of like Mane and Firmino, and it was very just interchangeable. The three of them just were like one hive mind. They just kind of knew one's out here, the other one's there. One's a playmaker, now the other one's going in. And it was, he doesn't have that with Nunes or Diaz or Gakpo or anything like that. So I just kind of think, you're not getting the best out of him there anymore. Is that crazy?
No, it's completely right, and the reasoning behind that, right, is there's two main reasons behind that. The first one is Roberto Firmino, right, one of the most intelligent footballers of all time. Now, what people kind of mistake for his deep-lying playmaker, false nine kind of role is when he goes into that pocket, right, drops into the number 10 position, and Mane and Salah come in, the person marking Firmino, it has to be one of the centre backs, because you can't pass it on to the defensive midfielder, because otherwise one of our midfielders is free and can bypass and run past that guy. So when he pulls a centre back out of position, the centre back and the full back have a diagonal gap between them, which is where Mane and Salah drive straight and attack, right? So Firmino's positioning allows the rotational play, allows Salah to get into those pockets and get past the ball into a pocket where he only has to beat one man or get a shot away, and super effective. But last season, the big formational tactical issue that I had for last season was they focused so much on getting Trent to invert into the base of the midfield, right? Into that number 6 kind of pivot role, which meant that the right-sided 8 needed to cover for Trent. Konate needed to cover for Trent. Who is our wide player? Where's our width? Therefore, Salah had to stay wide to maintain the shape. Otherwise, you congest the play for Trent and everyone else by crushing the pitch. So Salah had to start way too wide. And as you mentioned, he hasn't got the pace or to do much there. He's only literally keeping the width and he can work the ball enough. Trent has the passing angles, all that kind of stuff. Trent going further forward. But the whole system was designed to get Trent into those prominent positions. And when you're so reliant on that, it was forsaking Salah out on the wing where he's much less effective in his old age, and that's what.
That's kind of what. Yeah, that actually makes so much sense now. And one thing I noticed about Slot is he seems to have a real keen interest. I mean, look, all managers do, but a real keen interest in the training sessions. A lot of emphasis on training. He's been watching training sessions from last season, even in the build up to this, and like you can kind of see that he's quite. I feel like he'd be a little bit less, maybe 20% less jovial than Klopp. But he's like really friendly, seems really nice. But he seems to really be kind of like, you know, maybe it's the head coach thing, but he's very like very hands on, on training, and he seems to be really trying to prioritize that over everything else. Which I mean, I don't know. I mean, all managers are probably like that, but I feel like that's been dialed up a bit since he's arrived. You know what I mean? And you see all these kind of like mad training sessions where they're shadow boxing and things like that. So look, let me ask you then. In terms of predictions, I'm gonna hit you with some questions on some predictions for this season.
Sure.
Top goal scorer. Who have you got?
Top goal scorer, probably Darwin Núñez. If Darwin Núñez doesn't get banned from that kerfuffle earlier, I think he starts enough games. He has our central striker, and he'll probably start more games for the reasoning that it's not that Jota couldn't score the same amount of goals, but it's actually an attribute to be a super sub. Not everyone can be a guaranteed impact off the bench. And when you have that, that is a weapon in itself, right? If you can guarantee that Jota is a super sub and Darwin Núñez is hit and miss off the bench, Lucio Diaz is hit and miss off the bench, why not take advantage of that? Because in the 95th minute, if you have one chance against Tottenham, for example, with Richarlison doing some kind of pecking chicken at the other end, then who do you want it for to? Diogo Jota, fresh off the bench.
Exactly,
So,
okay, excellent. I love that as well. And do you think a ban's coming for him, or do you think it might just be an international ban? Or I mean, it's all a bit up in the air, isn't it, with that whole thing?
I think he might be lucky and escape it just for the fact that there are some situations around that, you know, around family, around the safety, around security, and for the fact that I don't think he actually hit anyone clean, and the chair hit the stands.
The chair, you know, that's the thing. I was saying it on the last video that like. It was fucking. I mean, him absolutely legging it with a chair, and then someone just taps it away at the last second, and he drops it. I'm like, thank you to that man. Buy one. I don't know who it was, but buy them a pint, because it was one of those like, oh my god, that's a year ban right there. But yeah, I think the fact that it was so publicized about what a bit of a shit show the organizational. Skills were of the tournament, where at the final you have people just hopping the fence and getting in on the Copa America, you know, and all this sort of stuff. So like, I think it's been widely publicized that security and all that was not up to scratch, so they had to kind of jump in. So I really hope, just give him like one of those shy bans like they gave Jude Bellingham, where it's okay, you're banned for a game next year. Don't worry about this year.
2 months the summer transfer window.
Just take it against Georgia in some friendly next October. But then okay, so in terms of player of the season, who do you reckon?
Yeah, so interesting one. Obviously Alexis McAllister will be there or thereabouts, as will Virgil van Dijk, I think. But I really feel as though Harvey Elliott will have a big part to play in Arne Slot's system because he's so technical and his vision is excellent. He's so gifted. He can get assists, get shots. He's versatile and plays a lot of areas well. But I think Cody Gakpo is one that comes under the radar as well, just for the fact that he was a little bit misused. Is that the correct word to say for Klopp? Because tried the midfield, tried up front, tried going deep as well. But from the left hand side, he's ruthless. Like he's going to cut inside, but you can't stop him. His shot is really good. He's got poaching instincts. He's got that funny turn on the shot where the ball comes into him, one touch, turns around, hopefully he doesn't injure himself and slots it in as well. I think it'll be between Cody Gakpo, Alexis McAllister, and Van Dijk, probably with Harvey Elliott a dark horse. And if I go out on a limb, you probably give it to McAllister because you're going to get a performance week in, week out.
Yeah, he's going to be consistent. And sorry, I never gave my pick for the top goal scorer. I'm going to say Núñez as well.
Oh, of course.
And chances are it'll be Salah, but I just really want it to be Núñez, so I'm just going to say Núñez for player of the season. Do you know what? Like, it's interesting with Harvey Elliott because he's kind of at the stage now, isn't he, where it's not. It's like expected now that he's going to be good. Do you know what I mean? Where the last few years he's kind of been great off the bench, and he's been fantastic off the bench. Actually, every time he came off the bench, he impacted the game last year.
Yeah.
But he's kind of getting to that stage now. I don't know exactly how old he is. Was he 22 or 3 or is
It's very young, something
like that. Yeah. But it's kind of like he's kind of now he's on kind of first team standards. You know what I mean? There's a level expected of him now.
Yes.
And more so I think than there was. But I'd be very interested to see how Gravenberch does this year because I think if he gets game time, and it's probably wrong of me to assume that all the Dutch players are going to get more game time than last season because we now have a Dutch manager. But I think he has shown signs of really being I love the way he protects the ball, and there's a lot of similarities I find between him and Wijnaldum with just the whole sort of it's very hard. He's very good at using his body to sort of block off and things like that. Yeah. In terms of player of the season, I would probably go with Cody Gakpo. I think he's going to be if he's played in the right position, which I think if he is playing, he will be in the right position.
Sure.
And I just think if you give him a good run in his favourite position, I think he'd be really hard to stop. So I'd go with him as well. What else? What other? What do you think? Young player of the season? I had another one there. I can't remember. Young player of the season. What do you think?
Who are you counting as young? What age bracket?
21 or younger.
21 or younger. Okay, for me then it's going to land on João Quansah then, because Quansah I think has really established himself last season. He even was picked ahead of Ibu Konate on merit. I mean, people talk about Leny Yoro for 52 million. You couldn't get João Quansah out of Liverpool for 80 million at this stage. He looks so composed. He has the confidence, the technical attributes. Sure, one mistake against Man United, doesn't matter. Everyone knows that João Quansah is the real deal. Comes in, he looks imperious. He looks ready.
He's like Van Dijk, isn't he? Like he's just Like, I mean, obviously not in terms of like the finished product, but there's times where he's very Van Dijk like, or you know, if the camera's quite far away, I'm genuinely wondering like, who's that? Like, oh, it's Quansah. I always, like he's got that sort of calmness, and I think like that whole thing of just Van Dijk being in the team, doesn't he just give everyone else this air of like, it's calmness. No. Don't panic. Do you remember before he came in how panicked the defense was, and you just never felt assured. Even if it, like I always remember thinking when Van Dijk came in, Trent kind of got, I don't know, like this could be total nonsense, but I always felt that when Van Dijk came in, his impact on Trent was like Trent maybe got a bit too chill about defending. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it's related at all, but I just remember the correlation because I remember thinking, oh, Van Dijk is so chill, he's so cool on the ball, he doesn't panic, and he waits for the defender to make the mistake, or to make, he kind of makes up their mind for him. And then I always remember thinking Trent was like, maybe it was just him getting older, or like not being like the 17-18 year old kid anymore, but I always kind of thought like, oh, like just I want Trent to be a little bit more panicked, you know.
Yeah, a little bit sharper, a little bit
yeah,
more.
you know, because that kind of, you know, and then you get into the whole narrative of him not being a good defender, which is like, you know, not true.
Indeed. That's the thing, right? So Trent is a good defender. He's not the greatest defender in the world. You know, you're not going to call him a Paolo Maldini or a Nesta or Cafu or someone in that regard. But he's a good defender, and he has played defense for quite a long time. The thing is, I think the timing of Van Dijk coming in correlated with the media bigging up Trent's playmaking abilities. And the fact that it's not got to his head, but the fact that Klopp and everyone realised he's a weapon, an absolute quality choice, a quality option, an asset at right back that no one else seems to have. And his ability to change the point of play from right back or anywhere on that kind of right quadrant into anywhere on the pitch, left wing, down the right channel, over the top, through into a playmaker or, you know, whatever position. I think they've been trying to maximize his creative output in a playmaking way at the expense of some of the defensive positioning or where he needs to start, which is why they've really gone towards someone covering him, whether it's a Henderson or a Milner or a Konate or Joe Gomez or anyone covering him. But at the same time, the confidence of a Van Dijk means that anything in and behind, right, which used to be a big threat, you get your pacey striker, Agbon Lahore or whoever, who's very limited, but can just run behind the lines. Van Dijk is quicker than all the pacey defenders anyway, can outmuscle them, which means you can push up high, you can push a high line, and Van Dijk will sweep up in and behind. And that's really what started our high press and congesting the kind of play as well. So I think it's more of a kind of coincidence, a system thing, that Van Dijk coming in does sweep up behind, allows your players to go forward, but at the same time, Trent's playmaking abilities was really coming to prominence and the fore, and them wanting to make a big deal of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, so you know what? I would love to revisit some of our predictions at the end of the season and see how we get on. Do you have any other predictions? Do you have any other things that you think we might see this season that we didn't see in terms of like on the pitch or players standing out or anything like that? Or do you think it's kind of it's a bit of a wait and see?
I'd be very, very interested in where Arne Slot chooses to deploy certain players. So you talked about Ryan Gravenberch, right? Is he going to be one of the deeper lying eights to break through the lines with his running, with his dribbling ability? You know, like a Naby Keita running through the lines. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain running more high up on the pitch, getting shots away, trying to, you know, press from the front. What is Curtis Jones going to do? Because Curtis Jones has been more of a mobile ball retainer, a kind of Gini Wijnaldum, roaming around getting the ball. But he's better than that. He's got the technical attributes to assist, to shoot, to dribble a player. But at the moment, it seems to be you put Curtis Jones somewhere and he's a safe pair of legs to receive the ball and keep the ball flowing and playing. He can really make the impact at the final end of the pitch, albeit a late run or in and behind, or, you know, he's got great touch as well. And Harvey Elliott, is he trusted as a midfield player, a playmaker, or is he going to be the pseudo Mo Salah coming in from the right position as well? So it's the positioning of the players. I'm very interested in where Slot deploys them, because what I think we'll find with Arne Slot, and you mentioned it earlier, Slot seems more attentive to training, more focused on training. One thing I'm really, really looking forward to is Jurgen Klopp likes to change the point of the attack and says, I'm going to get you into that position, get the ball over there, and then you go and you do your thing, 100 miles an hour going there. Whereas Arne Slot's a bit more methodical. He'll be like, you set up your low block, you set up your defensive positions, and I'm still going to break it through with passages of play on that right-hand side. I don't need to change the point of attack. We've worked out the patterns to beat you, even though you've set up. That's the kind of Dutch total football mentality. And that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing. Like any team that sit back in a low block, that Slot says, I don't care, whatever block you put up, we'll weave our way through you and we'll get the ball into position for Nunes to shoot.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see the difference between like playing a lesser team, for want of a better word. I'm so sorry I keep doing this. Lesser team versus like one of the top six or something like that. Because like our record against the top six last year, for the first time really that I can remember, wasn't as good as previous years. You know, like we'd always expect to do well against the top six. So anyway, I'd be interested to see how he changes it up. But I definitely want to revisit this. Can you tell the good folks watching where they can find you, or if you want to plug anything, please feel free to do it.
Absolutely. So my channel is Liverpool Fan in Japan. Check it out. Thank you so much, Andy, for plugging it. Basically, we talk about tactics, we talk about football, you have a bit of banter as well. Love collaborating, obviously, with Andy, the good man himself. And we've got very, very exciting things coming up in this season, especially I'm planning to live stream at least all of the 3 p.m. kickoffs, because in Japan we get all of the 3 p.m. kickoffs live on our app.
Nice.
So follow along with the live streams.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of actual crossover with people who watch your channel and my channel, and I think one thing people appreciate is the non-sensationalist sort of videos, you know, that's not like FSG are a bunch of cowards and they need, you know, like it's not clickbaity, and it's just good analysis. In your case, good analysis. In my case, good shy talk. But yeah, I think I definitely would want to collab a lot more as the season goes on and things like that. So definitely give Sai a look on YouTube. It's Liverpool Fan in Japan. I watch it. That's where I go to for my tactical analysis, and that I can pass off to my friends as my own knowledge.
I love it.
So yeah, Sai, look, thanks so much, and I will chat to you in probably a few weeks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Great show, great session, great questions, and yeah, happy to collaborate anytime, Andy.
What a guy. Huh? Don't you just love him? You might even learn some tactics on this channel now with these sort of collabs. But let me know what you think. Would love to get your feedback, and definitely check out Liverpool Fan in Japan. Really good channel. I watch it myself, and I don't watch a lot of Liverpool Fan channels, to be honest. Actually, I don't watch any, but I watch his. So it's definitely worth checking out. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good weekend, and up to fucking Reds.